The way anime goes is that it usually starts off with a main character who is ridiculously weak, has very little control over his powers, doesn't know many abilities, doesn't know what he can do fully. However, as the story progresses, the main character grows more and more in terms of strength, and by the end of the series, many times the main character is one of the strongest characters in the entire verse and is absolutely overpowered. And thankfully for most animes, their main characters are good guys, so they don't have to worry about anything. But let's say for this video, they weren't. Let's say the main character was either born evil or they became evil throughout the story. If that was the case, then would their verse be able to stand any sort of chance against them, or would they end up completely destroying their entire verse single-handedly? Let's get right into this, starting off with one of my favorite series, that being Bleach. How cooked would the Bleach verse be if Ichigo one day decided to turn evil? Now, Ichigo is exactly the type of character I described in the beginning of the video, the character who started off extraordinarily weak and became one of the strongest, and Ichigo is definitely a powerhouse in the Bleach verse. This man Ichigo was able to one-shot the Soul King with a single slash, and as we know from the beginning of Bleach, your Reiatsu output either needs to be equal or above your opponent in order to be able to damage them. So Ichigo very easily has Reiatsu levels either at the level of the Soul King or even above the Soul King to be able to do that. Ichigo also proved to be the most capable when it came to keeping up and damaging Yuha, with him actually killing Yuha not once, but twice. And keep in mind that at this point, Yuha had absorbed all the Sternriders, he got his original power back, and on top of that, he had absorbed the Soul King. So he had all the powers of the Quincy's combined with the power and Reiatsu of the Soul King, and yet Ichigo was still able to somewhat match him in terms of strength. So if Ichigo can keep up with Yuha, has enough Reiatsu output to be able to damage Yuha at such a significant level, surely he must be able to do some major damage to his own verse, right? And the answer is yes, but not as much as people will think. Despite Ichigo being top 3, top 4 in the verse, arguably being the strongest Soul Reaper to ever live, he is still not that far off in terms of strength with a lot of other characters in Bleach. Characters such as Aizen, Kenpachi, Ichibei, the rest of Squad Zero, etc. End of series Ichigo versus end of series Aizen is already a pretty tough debate to settle. So Ichigo going up against not only Aizen, but the entire verse, I'm sorry, but he doesn't stand a chance no matter how strong he is at that point. If Ichigo went rogue, don't get me wrong, he would still be a major threat for the Soul Society, and he would definitely take out a lot of heavy hitters such as Toshiro, Byakuya, Shunsui, probably would take out a bunch of Squad Zero members. But if Ichigo has to fight against characters like Ichibei, Aizen, and Kenpachi all at once, he doesn't really stand much of a chance despite him being stronger than those characters individually. So I wouldn't say the Bleach verse is too cooked. They would definitely suffer some loss, but in the end, they will be able to stop Ichigo. Let's move on to Mr. Solos himself, that being Goku. Now we've all heard the saying, Goku solos. But does Goku solo his own verse? The answer is no, and frankly, he doesn't even come remotely close to doing it. The Dragon Ball verse has characters like Zeno, characters that Goku has already acknowledged to be way stronger than him, and Zeno by himself can literally just think or snap Goku out of existence and he would be done for. And the fact that Zeno isn't even the most powerful is the scary part. So it's actually in Goku's best interest to never turn rogue, to never even try soloing his own verse, because his reign of terror would end immediately if he decided to mess with the wrong people. Now, just like Ichigo, Goku would be able to do some severe damage to the verse, but as soon as he has to go up against some high tiers, he's not winning. He would get absolutely demolished. So would the Dragon Ball verse be cooked if Goku decided to one day turn evil? Absolutely not. Sure, Goku could take out a lot of characters, and when I say a lot, I mean a lot. But at the same time, Goku can be stopped whenever with the snap of a finger. So I wouldn't say he's too big of a threat. It just depends how long Goku can go unchecked. But overall, I'm going to say the Dragon Ball verse would probably be like 60% cooked if Goku decided to turn evil. Moving on, we got another big name in the building, that being Naruto Uzumaki. And first, I'll be talking about Naruto soloing the Naruto verse, and then him soloing the Boruto verse, or whether he can solo both verses or not. But at the end of Naruto, is Naruto the strongest? Well, excluding Kaguya and Two-Eyed Madara, I would say yeah, Naruto would be the strongest. The only person that would stand any sort of chance against Naruto is obviously going to be Sasuke, but we saw them fight in the final valley at the end of Naruto Shippuden. Naruto was holding back against Sasuke the entire time, and Sasuke had the full power of the nine-tailed beasts on his side, and he was still losing by a lot to Naruto. And the fact that Sasuke is the closest person to Naruto in terms of strength by the end of the series, and he was barely keeping up with him, just goes to show that the strength gap between Naruto and everyone else is a big one. If Sasuke wouldn't be able to stop Naruto, frankly, no one would be able to stop him. The Naruto verse would be in absolute shambles if Naruto one day decided to go rogue. Because this isn't like Dragon Ball or Bleach. Naruto, at the end of his series, is way above everyone in terms of strength. The only way Naruto wouldn't be able to solo is if we take characters like Kaguya and Madara into account. But then I could just say, oh, let's use the version of Naruto from Naruto the Last. That version of Naruto will single-handedly be able to beat both Kaguya and Madara. So, no matter how you look at it, the Naruto verse is 100% cooked if Naruto one day decides to flip a switch and go rogue. Let's say Naruto got fed up with dealing with the village and all of his criticisms, and he just went evil. No one is stopping him. But would it be the same story if Naruto went after the Boruto verse? And obviously, I'm going to use Naruto before he lost Kurama because that's only fair. And frankly, no. Boruto characters are way stronger. Naruto was barely able to defeat Ishiki all by himself while going all out in Baryon mode, his most powerful form. A form that doesn't even last that long. So if Naruto had to go up against Ishiki, Teen Boruto, Teen Kawaki, No Limiter's Code, Momoshiki all at the same time, he's not winning. He is getting severely pummeled. But despite how strong the Boruto verse is, Naruto would still be one of the strongest characters in it. So majority of the verse would be cooked. I would give Naruto in Naruto Shippuden a 100% chance to solo his verse. And then in Boruto, he would solo like 90% of it. Now, how can I mention Ichigo, Goku, and Naruto without mentioning Luffy? Now, we all know Luffy recently acquired Gear 5. He has some level of Toon Force. He's able to use imagination to his aid. But would he be able to use that imagination to do some significant damage to the One Piece verse? I don't think so. I don't think Gear 5 is enough to allow Luffy to solo the One Piece verse. Now, people think Gear 5 is like this unstoppable power where Luffy becomes unbeatable. But we've seen it have some pretty heavy drawbacks. And one reason why Luffy seems so overpowered is because of how he dealt with Kaido. But what people fail to understand is that the reason why that fight seemed so easy is because of how goofy Gear 5 made it. I guarantee you, if Luffy had to verse two Yonkos at the same time, he is not winning. Luffy, quite frankly, is also nowhere close to being the strongest in his own verse. Yes, he's stronger than most, but there are quite a bit of characters that are still above him in terms of individual strength, let alone them all grouping up together to fight Luffy. Luffy would not stand a chance against his own verse, to be frank. Now, how much of the verse would he be able to solo? Maybe like 60-70%, but in the end, he's losing. Now, this next one is going to be a little different because instead of talking about the main character, I'm going to talk about the character everyone wants as the main character, that being Gojo from Jujutsu Kaisen. The reason I'm not talking about Yuji is because everyone knows that Yuji wouldn't be able to do much against his entire verse. So I don't even feel like really mentioning him. And I think it would be a lot more interesting if I talked about Gojo going evil instead. So, is the Jujutsu Kaisen verse cooked if Gojo decided to go evil? Pretty much, yeah. I mean, how many characters can bypass Gojo's infinity realistically? I mean, there's a lot of characters who have domain expansions that would be able to bypass Gojo's infinity, but how many of those characters would actually have a more refined domain than Gojo? Let me think. One character, and that one character is Sukuna. Out of every character in the verse, the only one that would have any sort of answer to Gojo's infinity would be Sukuna. So it would practically come down to Gojo versus Sukuna once again, and we all know what happened in that fight. Sukuna ended up winning in the end, and current Sukuna knows how to bypass infinity even without Maharaga by his side. So would Gojo be able to solo the Jujutsu Kaisen verse? The answer is unfortunately not, but he solos 99.99% of it. So let's count it as a win for Gojo. The Jujutsu Kaisen verse would be completely cooked if Gojo decided to go rogue and start taking everyone out, because no one has an answer for his insanely overpowered infinity. The last main character I'm going to talk about in this video is going to be Deku from My Hero Academia. And yes, I know Deku by the end of the series loses his powers. He doesn't have one for all. Obviously, we're going to be talking about his strongest point, which was him during the war arc when he had fully mastered one for all and was going toe-to-toe against Shigaraki. But that also means we're going to include characters like Shigaraki and All for One in the discussion. Deku, by that point, is practically unbeatable. He is way above every single person in the entire verse, besides one, that being Shigaraki himself. We saw that Deku couldn't fully handle Shigaraki. He needed actually a lot of assistance in his fight, especially from characters like Monoma, and he had to defeat Shigaraki by overloading him with his own quirks. So, because of that, I don't think Deku would be able to solo the My Hero Academia verse if he decided to go evil. But it would be a very similar case to Gojo's, where Deku would be able to solo practically the entire verse, besides maybe like 2 or 3 characters. As powerful as Class 1A is, the only characters that would give Deku any amount of trouble would be characters like Bakugo, Todoroki, and Tokoyami. And I think Deku is way too powerful for any 3 of them to be able to take him on, even with their combined strength. But with characters like Shigaraki and All for One kicking around, then Deku's chances of soloing drop to practically 0%. So from what we can see, maybe anime main characters aren't as powerful as we make them out to be. In fact, a lot of them are not soloing their entire verse if they decided to go evil. Sure, all of them are doing some pretty heavy damage, but none of them besides maybe Naruto are really soloing anything. Anyways, with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and make sure to like and subscribe, and let me know what other videos you guys want to see in the future. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys on the next one.